My husband told friends I'm lazy. Friends visited once and saw how much I actually do daily around here. I'm standing at the sink with my hands in hot, soapy water when I hear my husband's laugh from the living room. This big, easy laugh he saves for everyone except me lately. And then I hear my name. No, seriously, he says, loud enough that it carries over the TV, over the clatter of our toddler's toy train on the floor. She's home all day and still acts like she's exhausted. I swear if laziness was an Olympic sport, my wife would medal. There's a chorus of laughter, multiple voices, and I realize he's on speakerphone. My shoulders go tight like someone just yanked puppet strings. I keep scrubbing the same plate, even though it's already clean, just to have something to do with my hands. The water is too hot, and my fingertips are pruned, but I don't pull away. He keeps going. Man, you should see our place. Dishes in the sink, laundry everywhere. She naps when the kid naps. I come home, and it's like, what did you do today? Another laugh. His friend Mark says something I can't fully make out, and my husband, Evan, answers like it's the funniest thing in the world. Exactly. I tell her, get a job if you're so tired. My stomach drops. I can feel my pulse in my throat. I turn off the tap, so abruptly the silence is sharp, and in that second, without running water, all I can hear is him, my husband, building a version of me for his friends that sounds like a punchline. It was a Tuesday night the first time he called me lazy to my face, but it didn't start there. Evan and I have been together 9 years, married for 6. We used to be that obnoxious couple who actually liked each other in public. We were the ones who stayed late after dinner parties to help clean up because we genuinely didn't mind. We used to tag team life. Then we had our son, Leo, and life didn't just get harder. It got heavier, like someone quietly filled every corner with sand, and I was the only one noticing the weight. I'm a stay-at-home mom right now. Not because it was some lifelong dream, but because childcare costs where we live are basically a second mortgage, and Evan's job has decent insurance as long as he keeps his hours. We talked about it like adults. We did spreadsheets. We agreed it made sense for me to pause my job for a couple of years and then go back part-time when Leo started preschool. That was the plan. The plan did not include me being treated like I'm lounging around in a robe eating grapes. The reality is Leo wakes up like he's been shot out of cannon. He's sweet and funny and also a tiny, determined chaos machine. The kind of kid who will hug you hard and then immediately try to climb onto the kitchen counter to see what's in the cabinets. My day starts at 5:40 a.m. because he wakes up calling Mama Aya like he's been abandoned for days. I change him, make breakfast, clean up breakfast, try to get him to actually eat something that isn't just toast, wipe sticky hands, wipe the high chair, wipe the floor. Then the dog needs to go out. Then Leo wants to help feed the dog, which means kibble all over the tiles. Then I'm picking that up while he's tugging my shirt to show me the same book he's shown me 30 times. Somewhere in there, I'm texting the pediatrician about his rash, scheduling the dentist appointment Evan keeps forgetting he promised to call about, ordering more diapers because we're down to the last sleeve, paying the electricity bill because if I don't do it, the reminder email will just sit in Evan's inbox until it becomes a late fee and then he'll act shocked. I'm the one who knows we're low on dish soap. I'm the one who remembers Leo's favorite cup is the blue one with the straw, and if he can't find it, he will have a meltdown that lasts exactly long enough to make me late for everything. Evan works construction management. It's not easy. He leaves early, comes home tired, sometimes covered in dust, sometimes quiet in the way that means his day was brutal. I don't minimize that. I never have. I used to ask him about his day, rub his shoulders, make dinner, try to make our house feel like somewhere he could exhale. The problem is he started treating his tired like the only tired that mattered. It happened slowly at first. Little comments. Must be nice to be home. Wish I could take a nap whenever I wanted. What did you do all day? If I said, I cleaned the bathroom, did laundry, took Leo to his checkup, he'd shrug like that was just existing. Like that didn't count as work because no one handed me a paycheck at the end of it. Then his friend group started making jokes. The kind of jokes people make when they've never taken care of a toddler for more than an hour. Evan would come home and say, Mark asked if you're hiring an assistant for all your naps. He'd laugh like he was just repeating something harmless. I'd force a smile because I didn't want to be the uptight wife who can't take a joke, even though I'd be standing there with a baby on my hip and a pot boiling over. The truth is, it wasn't even just the chores. It was the constant alertness. The way I can't pee without a tiny voice asking where I am. The way I can't eat a meal without getting up 3 times. The way my brain has 50 tabs open at all times. Doctor appointments, meals, developmental milestones, when the dog needs flea medication, whether we have enough money in the checking account for Evan's surprise work boots purchase. It's exhausting in a way I can't explain to someone who gets to leave their job at the job site. And Evan started performing. That's the best word I have. He'd come home, see a pile of laundry on the couch, and instead of asking what happened that day, he'd announce, loud enough for our son to hear, "Wow, tough day." Or he'd see toys on the floor and make a show of stepping over them, sighing dramatically like he lived in a disaster zone. He started saying lazy casually, like it was a personality trait I could just correct if I wanted. If I snapped back, he'd say I was being emotional or defensive. If I shut down, he'd say, "See, you know I'm right." We had our first real blow-up about it a couple months ago. Leo had been sick, the kind of sick where he wants to be held constantly and cries if you set him down. I hadn't slept more than 2 hours in a row for 3 nights. Evan came home, saw the living room look like a toy store exploded, and said, "You couldn't pick up? You were home all day." I remember looking at him and feeling something inside me go cold. I said, "I was holding your child while he had fever." Evan rolled his eyes and said, "Every mom does that." That's not a reason to let the house go to hell. I'm not proud of what I did next, but I'm also not sorry. I said, "Then you do it. Tomorrow. You take a day off. I'll leave at 7 a.m., and you do my day. Keep Leo alive, keep him fed, keep the house running, and then tell me again how lazy I am." Evan laughed in my face and said, "You'd love that. You'd finally have a break from doing nothing." So yeah. Hearing him say it on speakerphone to his friends while I'm literally cleaning up after him, while our kid is throwing blocks at my feet, did something to me. It wasn't just anger. It was humiliation. It was the realization that he wasn't venting. He was building a case against me for an audience. I walked into the living room with the wet plate still in my hand, dripping onto the hardwood. Evan was on the couch, one arm behind his head like he was relaxed, phone in his other hand, speaker on. He looked up at me with this casual half-smile, like he expected me to play along. "Babe," he said, still in friend mode, "Mark and Jess are coming by Saturday. We're going to do burgers and watch the game." I stared at him. My voice came out weirdly calm. "You were just telling them I'm lazy." He blinked, like he hadn't expected me to speak. There was a pause on the phone, the kind of pause where people are suddenly very aware they're listening. Evan's smile tightened. "It's a joke," he said, waving his hand. "Don't start. Don't start." I repeated. My hands were trembling. I set the plate down on the coffee table because I didn't trust myself not to throw it. Leo toddled over and tried to climb on my leg. I picked him up, mostly to keep my hands busy. "You're making me the joke. To your friends." Evan rolled his eyes again, and there it was, that looked like I was inconveniencing him. "Jesus," he muttered, but not quietly. His friends heard. "I can't even talk without you getting offended." I looked at the phone and said, "Hey, Mark. Hey, Jess." My voice shook. "Just so you know, if the house is messy on Saturday, it's because I'm lazy." Apparently. There was a beat of silence. Then Jess said, "Careful. Hi." Mark coughed like he wanted to disappear. Evan's face went red. "Okay," he snapped, and he stabbed at the screen to end the call. He stared at me like I'd embarrassed him in front of the world. What the hell was that? That's when I made a choice that felt equal parts petty and necessary. "Saturday," I said, "you're hosting. You want them to see what I do all day. Great. They can. I'm not going to run around making you look good." Evan scoffed. "So you're going to punish me by not cleaning? Real mature." "It's not punishment," I said, and I surprised myself by how steady my voice was. "It's reality. You've been selling them a story. I'm done covering for you." Friday night, Evan made a big show of helping by wiping the kitchen counters for 30 seconds and then announcing he was exhausted. He went to bed early. I stayed up after Leo finally fell asleep. Not doing some dramatic revenge plan, just trying to make the house functional because I live here too. But I didn't do the extra stuff I usually do before company comes. The vacuuming lines in the carpet, the bathroom mirror polished, the fridge cleaned out so no one sees the leftover containers. I didn't run myself ragged to make it look like I have it all together. I left it lived in. Honest. Saturday morning, Leo woke up at 6:05 and immediately demanded pancakes. Evan stayed in bed until 9:30 because it's the weekend. I made pancakes, cleaned the griddle, rinsed syrup off sticky toddler fingers, loaded the dishwasher, took the dog out, started a load of laundry. By the time Evan wandered into the kitchen rubbing his eyes, I was wiping a spill off the floor with one foot while holding Leo's cup and trying to answer a text from my mom. Evan looked around and said, "You didn't even pick up." I stared at him. "I've been up for 3.5 hours," I said. "I'm doing things. They're just not the things you notice." He opened his mouth like he wanted to argue, then closed it. He poured himself coffee and leaned against the counter like he was supervising. "Just don't make this weird today," he said. I laughed once short. "I'm not making it weird," I said. "You did." Mark and Jess arrived around noon. Mark came in with a case of beer like a peace offering, and Jess had a tray of store-bought cookies. They were both smiling, but the smiles looked slightly forced, like they knew they'd stepped into something. Evan slapped Mark on the back and did his loud host voice. "What's up, man? Come in. Leo immediately ran up to Jess and grabbed her leg because he's a tiny extrovert and everyone is his friend. Jess bent down, laughing, and I watched her eyes flick over the living room. The pile of laundry I hadn't folded yet, the toy bins half dumped, the fingerprints on the sliding glass door. Not filthy, not trashy, just real. Evan didn't see her look. Evan sees what he wants to see. We went out back. Evan manned the grill like it was his stage. Mark stood with him, talking sports. Jess sat at the patio table, and I sat for about 30 seconds before Leo started whining because he wanted juice. I got up, got juice, came back, sat, then got up because the dog was barking, then got up because Leo dropped the juice and started crying like it was the end of his world. I wiped it, changed his shirt, washed my hands, came back out. Jess watched me like she was tracking a ping pong ball. At one point, Evan yelled from the grill, "Babe, can you grab the plates?" He didn't say please. He never does when there's an audience. Like I'm an extension of the kitchen. I said, "Sure," and went inside. Leo followed, of course. Inside, he immediately pulled a drawer open and started flinging utensils like confetti. I closed it, redirected him, got the plates, then realized we were out of ketchup, so I found the bottle in the fridge, and then the dishwasher beeped because the cycle was done, and I automatically started unloading because if I didn't, the sink would fill later. While I was doing that, Leo climbed onto a chair and tried to reach the counter. I grabbed him before he face-planted. My heart did that weird spike it always does when you realize how quickly things can go wrong. I set him down, and he immediately started crying because I had ruined his mission. I heard laughter from outside. Evan's laugh. Mark's laugh. For a second, I just stood there in the kitchen, plates in my hand, Leo crying, dishwasher door open, and I felt this wave of loneliness so strong I had to blink hard. Like I was watching a life I didn't sign up for. Jess came in quietly a moment later. I didn't hear her until she was at the doorway. "Hey," she said softly. "Do you want to take him for a minute?" "You blinks here, stolzed." "Oh no, it's okay," I said automatically because that's what you say. It's the reflex of someone who's been trained to handle everything. Jess didn't move. She just stepped forward and held out her arms. "Seriously," she said, "you look like you haven't sat down all day." Something in my chest cracked. I handed Leo to her before I could talk myself out of it. He immediately stopped crying because he loves new people and attention. Jess bounced him on her hip with this practiced ease that told me she'd done this before, probably with nieces or a friend's kids. "There we go," she murmured. I exhaled. It felt like the first full breath I'd taken in weeks. I carried the plates outside and set them on the table. Evan glanced at me like he was checking a box. Finally, he joked, and Mar chuckled, but it sounded less enthusiastic than before. Then Jess walked out holding Leo, and she didn't go sit down. She walked straight over to the grill, stood beside Evan, and said, light but pointed, "So when do you jump in with Leo's stuff?" Because she's been running laps since we got here. Evan's head snapped toward her. He forced a laugh. Oh, he said, flipping a burger too aggressively. She likes doing that. She's a mom. Jess raised her eyebrows. That's not an answer, she said, still smiling, but her tone changed. Mark shifted uncomfortably. Evan's jaw tightened. He glanced at me like he was silently telling me to fix it. I didn't. Jess kept bouncing Leo, and Leo reached for Evan, saying Dada. Evan looked at his son like he was surprised to be addressed. Jess simply held Leo out toward him. Here, she said. He wants you. Evan hesitated just a fraction too long, and then took Leo awkwardly like he wasn't used to holding him when there was food involved. Leo immediately started patting Evan's face, happy as anything. Jess sat down and looked at me. Sit, she said, and it wasn't a suggestion. It was an instruction from someone who had finally seen the dynamic and couldn't unsee it. He said, my legs felt shaky. I didn't realize how tired I was until I stopped moving. For the next hour, something strange happened. I stayed seated more than I stood. Not because my workload vanished, but because Jess and Mark started noticing things. Leonidi donot. Mark said, I can take him inside so you can eat. Evan started to protest, and Mark cut him off with a laugh that had teeth. Dude, you can watch the grill for 5 minutes. It won't explode. Evan tried to play it off as jokes, but his eyes kept flicking to me, irritated. He didn't like losing control of the narrative. He didn't like his friends seeing the gears. At one point, Evan said, Man, I wish I could stay home all day, and it came out automatic like a line he'd rehearsed. Mark looked at him and said, After watching today? No thanks. Evan laughed too loudly. Oh, come on. Mark shrugged. You said she's lazy. That doesn't look lazy. It was quiet for a second. The only sound was the sizzle of the grill and Leo babbling happily from Evan's lap. I felt heat crawl up my neck, not embarrassment exactly, more like being exposed. Like someone had turned on a light in a room we'd been pretending was dark. Jess didn't let it drop. She looked at Evan and said, Matter of fact, that thing you said about her napping when the kid naps? She doesn't even sit. She's been up and down all day. If you're tired after work, fine. But don't call her lazy like this is a vacation. Evan's face hardened. I was joking, he said sharper now. Jess tilted her head. It didn't sound like a joke, she said. Evan opened his mouth, closed it, then finally said, She's just always complaining she's tired. I didn't even mean to speak, but it came out. Because I am, I said quietly. I'm tired all the time. Evan looked at me like I'd betrayed him again. See, he said to his friends, palms up, like I was proving his point. This is what I deal with. Mark stared at him for a long second. Then he said, You deal with your wife doing everything. Evan blinked. That's not. Mark cut in, still calm but firm. Evan, I've known you since high school. You could be a good guy, but you've been talking about her like she's a burden. It's not a good look. My throat tightened. I focused on the condensation on my water glass because if I looked at Evan, I knew I'd cry or yell, and I didn't want to do either in front of people. Evan went quiet after that. The rest of the afternoon was strained. Not screaming, not dramatic. Just tight. He held Leo more. He did the grill and the drinks and made a show of bringing plates inside. But it wasn't natural. It was like he was acting out a role he didn't like. When Mark and Jess finally left, Jess hugged me at the door longer than necessary. Text me, she murmured. Seriously. Mark gave me an awkward smile and said, You're doing a lot, like he didn't know how else to phrase it without stepping too far into our marriage. As soon as the door closed, Evan's mask dropped. He turned on me so fast it made my stomach flip. What did you tell them? He demanded. I stared at him. Nothing, I said. They have eyes. Evan's nostrils flared. You embarrass me, he said, voice low. I let out this tired laugh I didn't recognize as mine. You embarrass yourself, I said. You told them I'm lazy. You told them I do nothing. They watch me. That's it. Evan paced 2 steps like he wanted somewhere to put his anger. They don't understand, he snapped. They saw one day. One day. I repeated, and my voice cracked, which surprised me. One day, and they understood more than you've understood in 2 years. Evan's expression shifted, something defensive trying to turn into wounded. So now I'm a bad guy, he said. I looked at him, really looked, and I saw how deeply he believed he was entitled to be the exhausted one, the important one. I saw how he decided my labor didn't count because it wasn't paid. I saw how much he liked the sympathy he got from his friends when he made me into a caricature. I don't care about bad guy, I said, and my voice was quiet. I care about respect. I care about not being your joke. Evan scoffed. You're being dramatic. I walked past him into the kitchen. The plates were stacked. The counters were sticky. The laundry was still sitting there. Leo was rubbing his eyes, ready to crash. The dog needed to go out again. The day wasn't over just because company left. It never is. Evan followed me, still angry. So what? You want an award, he said. You want me to bow down? I turned around so fast he stopped short. I want you to stop telling people I'm lazy, I said. I want you to stop acting like I'm your employee. I want you to look at what I do and say, thank you, without it costing you pride. Evan's mouth tightened. He looked away. I work all day too, he muttered. I know, I said. That's why I haven't called you lazy. That's why I haven't told my friends you're useless. I've been protecting you. You didn't protect me. The next day, Mark texted Evan, apparently. I know because Evan left his phone on the counter, and the notification popped up while I was chopping fruit. It said, hey man, yesterday was weird. Don't talk about Claire like that. She's doing a lot. Step up. My hands froze on the knife handle. I didn't open the message. I didn't need to. I felt this strange mix of vindication and sadness. Vindication that someone saw it. Sadness that it took someone outside our marriage to say what I'd been saying for months. Evan didn't mention the text at first. He was quieter for a few days, like he was sulking, but he also started doing things. Not grand gestures, small ones. He loaded the dishwasher without being asked. He took Leo on a walk so I could shower. He asked, once, what do we need from the store? Like the idea that groceries didn't magically appear was new information. Then on Wednesday night, he slipped back. He came home, saw a mess of toys, and started to sigh. I watched him in that moment and felt something inside me go very still, very clear. I said, if you call me lazy again, we're going to have a different conversation. Not about chores, about whether we're partners. He stared at me. Are you threatening me? No, I said. I'm warning you. I can't live like this. I won't. He looked like he wanted to argue, but he didn't. He went into the living room, started picking up toys. It was stiff, angry cleaning, but it was something. I wish I could say he apologized in some perfect way. He didn't. Evan isn't good at apologies. He's good at defensiveness and jokes and pretending things don't matter. But the weekend shifted something. Not magically, not permanently, maybe, but it cracked the story he'd been hiding behind, that I'm lazy and he's the martyr. His friends saw. He saw that they saw. And that matters more than I like admitting. I'm still in it. I'm still tired. I still do most of the invisible work. But now, when Evan starts to slip into that old contempt, there's a line in the sand that wasn't there before. And honestly, there's also a line in me. Because the worst part wasn't even the chores. It was hearing my husband tell a room full of people that I'm nothing. That my effort is nothing. That I'm a joke. And the best part of that awful, humiliating moment wasn't the call out, even though it helped. It was realizing I don't have to prove my worth to someone who benefits from pretending I don't have any. If Evan wants a wife who is quiet, grateful, and endlessly available, he can keep dreaming. I'm not lazy. I'm not a punchline. And I'm done shrinking so he can feel bigger.